Hello, space friends. Captain Snuggles here, back for the finale of my Space Haven playthrough. For real this time. I know I said that last episode and then got bogged down into a very long brawl. But this time, the CSS Snughaven is going to be traveling through relatively charted space that theoretically I've already cleared out. So, it should be pretty smooth sailing to the finish, where we are hopefully finding a new home for humanity. So, let's get started. I believe the only real task we have between us and our destination is finding homes for these two refugees that we rescued. Freed slaves, Amberly Mistwalker from the Military Alliance, and Scott Fly from the Merchant Federation. So we are going to make our way to here, the Seti Zulfikar Belt, while keeping an eye out for military and merchant ships. That shouldn't be too hard to find, especially since we're moving through a safe zone here very soon. So theoretically, this should be a cruise to the finish, he says as his ship gets hit by an asteroid. Right? Let's prep for jump. Start making our way towards our new home. Theoretically, this will be a fairly short little episode, which means, theoretically, I will have time to add in a review of the game at the end, which I've been looking forward to doing for a while now. Are we ever gonna... Oh. There we go. Off to a little bit of a slow start, as I didn't have anybody actually preparing the ship to jump. Yeah, I've been looking forward to doing this review. I have a lot of thoughts. My opinion of the game has really swung up and down over the course of the playthrough. And yeah, I'm excited to unpack that. Alright. Which way are we going? Southeast. Oh, I guess we haven't explored this next system cluster yet. But it is a safe zone, so not too worried. Let's drop out of hyperspace here. We'll watch our little parade of crew members as they get out of hypersleep. Heading off to take their spacesuits off. Once they're all squared away, we'll go ahead and jump on out. Keep on moving and looking for the military and the merchants. I don't think I realized there are actually footstep sounds in this game. I've never zoomed in this far in my life. And they grumble. Huh. I've never heard either of those things, the footsteps or the slightly off-putting talking. The more you know. Alright. I'll give him a few minutes to rest and relax after their long hypersleep. Oh, Tyrus is off drinking, huh? What's wrong with you, Tyrus? My people, like, never get mental breaks these days. What's your deal? I think my friend might be dead. I hope it's true, but I haven't seen him in such a long time. We didn't lose any crew members, I don't think. I wonder if that's just random, or if we actually killed somebody who was Tyrus's friend in a past life. Because he, I believe, was the first guy, or one of the first guys, we got out of a hypersleep pod on a derelict. I didn't think that the characters came sort of preloaded with NPC relationships like they do in RimWorld. And I don't think... we certainly haven't lost any crew members recently. We've never lost any of the important people, that's for sure. So nobody that Tyrus would have been friends with. Is this just a random... There's just a random thing that pops up? Just randomly generated? Or is there just somebody on the crew that he's friends with who he just hasn't seen in a long time somehow? How long is this gonna last? Okay, so this is gonna last for 2 more hours. Let's fast forward through that. It's funny, he's on a drinking binge and is mentally broken, but he still will not use the alcohol that's locked for only refugees. Here, let me give me a second. I'm interested to see. Will he go and get booze? Will anybody go and get booze? Imelda will. There he goes. Enjoy your last hour of drinking binge, Tyrus. Go get it, man. Look at how much faster he's getting drinks than Imelda did. It's funny. There he goes. I'm just curious to watch this, because I've had so few chances to observe mental breaks. That's funny, right at the tail end of the run here, the crew starts doing interesting things. Everybody's sitting down with their drinks. It's so interesting. Like I said, I don't see many mental breaks, but I also don't ever really take the time to sit and just watch what my crew gets up to. I don't really like their whispering and muttering. You know, the sound effects here can maybe use some work. But, still, it is kind of cool to watch these guys just going about their interactions. Scott just gave somebody the middle finger, made Tyrus mad. Oh, Scott! We rescued you, Scott. What the heck? Tyrus has been my MVP like all run, and Scott's over here just insulting him. What an absolute jackass. Should make nice with the slavers and sell you back to him. How do you feel about that, Scott? It would be cool if like RimWorld, we had a little bit of a better readout of, you know, what's being said and how it affects the people in question. But still, kind of interesting. Let's see. What do you mean no decorations, Alachi? Look at these shrubberies. Look at this picture. My goodness. Talia also thinks their friend might be dead. What? Nobody died. Alright. Let's get everybody in the same room. What room has enough space? Everybody to the bridge. All hands to the bridge. Just so that everybody can see each other and is aware that they are in fact alive. No? Okay. Well, alright. At least Tyra should be feeling a little bit better. Yeah, mood is up to 61. He's a little tipsy. He had a nice time on his mental break. Got some booze, got a good meal, chatted with a couple of friends. Still has some mystery friend. Several people have a mystery friend they haven't seen. I wonder if somebody made friends. I wonder if there was just a really chatty refugee at some point who made friends with a bunch of people, and then we sent them back to their faction. I bet that's it. I bet that is it. Alright, we're going to say mystery solved on that, and let's prep for jump. I've already managed to take almost 12 minutes to make what, one jump, two jumps? Hopefully I can stop getting distracted and proceed at a slightly faster pace. Oh, look at this. This is military and merchant. Perfect. This will save us some time. Alright. Let's get somebody on ops. Yes, we will absolutely give your faction people back. What are you going to give me, just out of curiosity? Not much, that's okay. It's about doing the good deed. Alright, that's it for the merchants. Now the military. Will they have more generous gifts since they like me more? Let's see. Not really, but they are giving me booze. Giving me a little bit of mild alcohol, so I am good with that. Okay, perfect. There we go. Let's wait for Emerly and Scott to get offloaded here. Robots detective. I should have somebody on ops. Somebody's going to ops. Shouldn't be an issue. Where are these guys? Oh, there is a drop pod incoming. So yeah, these little guys are not going to be a problem. The drop pod, though, where's it going to go? It has a walker and 2 flybots, but it looks like it's just going to go to the derelict here. Yeah, that's no biggie. That's weird. Why is it dropping off more bots on the already bot-infested ship? It's a little odd. Sometimes the AI does odd things. Oh well. Alright, there we go. Our refugees are back with their people. Getting pelted by asteroids and continually spawning in rogue bots. No biggie. These guys should be able to defend themselves, right? Yeah, they'll be alright. They have plenty of shields. There's enough point defense scattered around. No need for us to intervene. We can move on. Alright, perfect. So now we need to head to the southeast here. Hopefully not get intercepted by any slavers. Yeah, it would be odd to see slavers here in this protected system. Sweet. Yeah, so here, this green X is the end of the game. That's humanity's new home. So we are heading there. The home stretch. This will be the final procession out of hypersleep. So let's listen to those weird footsteps and voices. Or possibly the last time. Watch my crew members navigate the maze of equipment to get their spacesuits off. Somebody's whistling. Wow. The things you discover when you actually zoom in and watch your crew for a few minutes. I guess it's appropriate. This is going to be our farewell episode after all. We will not be seeing this crew again after this. So it makes sense that we would take a little bit of time to hang out with them. I believe our destination is actually within jump range. Yeah, it's only 1, 2, 3 jumps away, which means we're about to make... Yeah, this is the last time... This is actually the last time that we will see this crew doing their thing. So... I was gonna have everybody take a break, you know, gather in the break room, but I need Tyrus to actually be awake for it, so I'm gonna override his schedule for a bit. Tyrus, after all, has been a serious MVP for quite a while. In fact, yeah, let's put everybody to bed. For a few hours. Get everybody some sleep. And then we'll have one last big party in the rec room. Clear wreckage area there. And clear prisoner area there. Make sure that everybody can use all available food and drink services for this last hurrah. Alright. There we go. Now, we'll give people 4 hours to party up. Alright. Off you go, guys. You'll have to excuse me for not commentating. Just enjoying the ambiance, savoring this last little bit of time with my crew. Half an hour left, and then we are heading out of here. Alright. And there we go. That's it for the final big party. Let's prep for jump. And head on to our new home. And oh man, And this is the last of the Snughaven, huh? It has been a trip. I do love this ship. Has a heck of a crew, too. Alright. The last jump. Here we are, the ending screen, such as it is. Eden, we found it. It's breathtaking. The blues of the oceans, the greens of the forests, and the whites of the cloud formations. It's like someone took the most brilliant colors and combined them into a captivatingly beautiful painting, hanging in the void, but shining like a beacon of hope. A second chance for us. Yet, as we look at the magnificent planet, we cannot help but feel a sadness come over us. Home is where your heart is, and our fleet has been our home all this time. Our fleet embraced us and protected us from harm as we traveled through the stars. So many memories, so many experiences of hardships and joy. Now, as we found Eden, we're faced with a decision. Do we land on this planet and start anew, or do we stay on our home among the stars? So there we are, we found Eden, but, well, having second thoughts. Gotta say, though, we've worked hard to get here. And plus, there's a new patch out, so there's no point continuing this run in New Game Plus. So, we are going to land on Eden, accomplish our goal, and, well, say farewell to the Snughaven. And straight back to the title screen. No credits, no splash art, no nothing. But we at least get to hear this nice sentimental start screen music. And there we are. That is the end of the run. The intrepid crew of the CSS Snughaven fought pirates and slavers, rescued a lot of people, and made the galaxy a safer and better place, at least by a little bit. And, well, set foot on humanity's new home in the end. And that's going to be that. I have plenty to say about the game in terms of a review, but for gameplay, well, that was the run. Thank you for sticking with it to the end. Alright, let's get into this review. So I'll start with the short version. We've got some good, some bad, and some ugly. Starting out with the good, I think the core concept of building and controlling a fully customized spaceship, that is really solid. I also think the sound design is great. The music and the sound effects are top-notch. The bad, I think, really crops up most in the late game. We have poor late game balance. There is a real lack of late game content, and the game's AI and UI, in my opinion, are both very weak. Then the ugly. I think the game design is really inconsistent. There are a lot of things that I wouldn't necessarily call bad, but they feel out of place, or more specifically, a lot of features just feel tacked on rather than being properly integrated into the game. So I guess the TLDR review is the early game is interesting, the mid game is fun, the late game is a mess. So there's fun in there, for sure, and there are things to keep you interested, for sure, but it doesn't consistently entertain, and it definitely falls apart more the longer you go on. So when I gave my first impressions, I said Spacehaven is a good game for casual spaceship enjoyers and a great game for astronaut poop enthusiasts. I still think it's a great game for astronaut poop enthusiasts because I have not seen this level of sort of hard sci-fi spaceship-specific colony sim anywhere else. That being said, do I still think it's a good game for casual spaceship enjoyers? I'm not so sure. So, why don't we dive into some more in-depth details so that you all can form your own opinion. Right. Alright. I'm going to load up one of these recent saves so that I can hopefully illustrate what I'm talking about as we go. So first off, the early game and the mid game, which I am lumping together because they're both really driven by the same gameplay loop, and it's a pretty good one. And that is resource acquisition to build your ship, expand it, make it better, to then acquire more resources, better resources, more advanced resources, to then expand your ship more, etc., etc. And that is a really solid, really entertaining gameplay loop with a couple of caveats. So, first and foremost, although it is a really solid gameplay loop, it does go very, very, very slowly in the early game, which is why I don't think the early game is necessarily fun or exciting, but it is interesting. It's a slow burn, for sure. And so I would say the early game is the period where you're just trying to build out a self-sustaining ship, where your crew isn't freezing or starving or asphyxiating or pooping their pants. And because you're trying to meet the crew's basic sort of survival needs, and there is a risk of people freezing or starving if you mess up or don't get resources fast enough. There's pressure, there's tension, it's good, but it just goes so slowly. You know, looking at the Snughaven here, let's look at this bad boy, this water purifier, right? We can't see how many resources it takes to build a new one, so I'm just gonna have to spitball here. But I would say you probably need an entire star system's worth of resources. You know, all the asteroids you can find, everything you can get off a derelict. You probably need just about everything you can scavenge in a single system just to build one of these. And then, of course, you have to not only get those resources, but also process any scrap that you have to be able to actually build that. And look at all of the different modules, all the different pieces of equipment that you have to really finish a ship. So if you think each of these little things I'm mousing over takes at least one system's worth of resources to construct, and in the early game you only have 3-4 people to get those resources, you can see it takes a really, really, really long time to start really building out your ship. And so, while the gameplay loop is solid, and especially the sort of dungeon crawl derelict exploration is great, it's just really slow in the early game. But eventually, you will get to the mid-game, and at that point, you have some of these modules that help you sort of progress to higher tech levels and make your ship more efficient. You probably have more crew members as well. You have a generally higher technology level. And although you're still trying to build out the ship to achieve your final vision, you still really need resources. You can get them faster, and it isn't necessarily that survival situation. And so the mid-game is more where you're free to take greater risks and get greater rewards as a result. So you have a little bit more of a buffer in terms of your stockpiled resources, more of a buffer in crew members, can achieve things faster, and losses hurt you less. But there's still a lot of tension because there is still that need for resources to build out your ship. And so the mid-game is great the gameplay loop of resource acquisition goes a lot faster, and you really start to sort of feel that economy of scale, and you also really feel that if you take risks, you're going to be rewarded. And I would say that that is the period when the game gets fun. Like, actually fun. It is fast-paced enough, it's dynamic enough, and things work well enough, it's balanced enough, that I would say that in the mid-game, the game is genuinely fun to play. So, that brings us to the late game. So I would say the late game starts when the necessity of resource acquisition ends, meaning that your ship is basically complete and you no longer need to engage in that resource and construction gameplay loop that defined the early game and the mid game. So without that gameplay loop, the game basically turns into a sandbox where you've built your ship and now you get to just play around with it. And there are two really important things to note here. So, first off, for me, the late game started here, in the 8th system that I visited. And, number two, the last time I saw any actual new content was here, in the 9th system I visited. Which means that the entire rest of this map, as well as any New Game Plus maps, that is all supposed to just be a great big sandbox where you use your badass complete ship to repeat the same content over and over until you get bored. Now, I do understand the appeal of the sandbox. You built your toy, and now you want to play with it. However, I do think that the lack of new content to play with makes the late game a lot less fun than it otherwise could be. And that is just fundamentally. That's before we even start to think about all the flaws that crop up in the late game. And so let's think about those flaws now. So, flaw number one, balance. I've pointed this out before, but with crew combat in particular, there are late game weapons, but there is no functioning late game armor, which means that people are constantly getting killed or incapacitated in just one volley, and that really changes the dynamics of combat for the worse. So whereas earlier combat felt really tactical and mobile and dynamic, in the late game combat is mostly just camping choke points with as many laser rifles as you can carry, which is really not that fun. That's a major flaw because if all we're going to get is recycled content, it better be at least as good as it was previously, and it just isn't. Right, then moving on to flaw number two is the AI. So as you progress through the game, unsurprisingly, your ship and NPC ships get bigger and more complex, as you can see here, and there are consistently more ships on the battlefield. And so things get exponentially more complex, and as that complexity increases, the AI really struggles to keep up. Job assignments and shuttle control come to mind as two real problem points, and I also feel compelled to call out the tick length here. And so, for reference, I believe one tick in RimWorld is 1/10 of a second, whereas in Spacehaven, as best I can tell, one tick is a full second. That means the AI only registers changes in conditions once per second, which is an insanely long time in a complex late-game scenario with a whole lot of things happening in a short time. And that leads to some wacky situations, like your crew just walking past the person they're supposed to talk to, or just not shooting bad guys that walk through their field of fire. And ultimately, by the late game, the AI just feels obsolete. It feels like it was designed for early alpha and then just never updated as the game has expanded. So, that's a pretty big issue. AI is a core function of a colony sim, and we expect it to work right for the full duration of the game, right? So, pretty major flaw number 2. Flaw number 3 is the UI. And I have to say, the UI looks great. It has a really nice sci-fi vibe to it, from the basic menus here down to the way things look as you're ordering your crew around on the micro scale. However, looks aside, the UI makes 0 sense. Even in the early game, a lot of these symbols are just absolutely wacky, and the steps you have to take to order your crew to perform certain tasks, those steps are really non-intuitive. And it only gets worse in the late game, as a lot of the late game features introduce new interface elements that really are not properly integrated into the existing UI. So I could talk, and sorry about that cut. Some evil robots decided to invade my ship partway through my previous take, which was not that great for my delivery of my review. So I have shifted to hopefully a more peaceful save, and we can take it from here. So here we go. We have 3 pretty big flaws already, with the balance and the AI and the UI. There is one more thing I want to talk about. Flaw number 4 is internal inconsistencies. So similar to the AI and the UI, this one isn't exclusive to the late game, but it does get harder and harder to overlook as the game goes on. I'm talking about little inconsistencies like having multiple tiers of energy weapons but no energy armor, inconsistencies like crew inside shuttles being injured by micrometeoroids but not by bullets, even if those bullets completely destroy the shuttle, inconsistencies like aliens having boarding pods but not humans, inconsistencies like, despite our insane level of technology, we can't build a decent fire extinguisher or put locks on our doors. And the list goes on. I am nitpicking here, but these small inconsistencies add up, and they really contribute to the overall vibe of the late game. And that overall vibe is, well, slapped together. In the early game and the mid game, it felt like we had something cohesive, a well-designed, enjoyable gameplay loop. But in the late game, which is most of the game, we have a hastily assembled mess. There's no new content, the old content scales poorly, the AI struggles to keep up, the UI is a labyrinth, and the more you play, the more you find inconsistencies in this hard sci-fi universe that used to seem so carefully thought out. And ultimately, I can't help but think the game would have been better and would be better in the future if it just ended after the mid-game. Cut all that late-game junk out. Because Space Haven at its core is a really cool and unique little game. A strategic shipbuilding colony sim that provides a solid 20 to 40 hours of entertainment easily. But the devs don't seem to want a cool and unique little game. They seem to want a sprawling space sandbox. So, up until now, instead of polishing the AI and UI and core features to get the game ready for full release, instead the devs have just been lingering in early access, tacking on more and more extraneous junk. In other words, it's classic early access. And it's too bad. I do wish that instead of trying to make the next RimWorld, the devs would just focus on making the first Space Haven. And that's my review. Now, I may come back and check on Space Haven's progress in a few patches, but until then, I'm off to other games, so stay tuned for that content. As always, thanks very much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this series, and I hope you will tune in next time. Until then, this is Captain Snuggles, signing off.